You won't believe what my HOA president Karen tried to pull on my family. This wasn't just her usual petty fines or passive-aggressive letters on our door. No, this time she crossed a line no one could have imagined. And trust me, it backfired in the most humiliating way possible. But before we dive in, drop a comment telling me which country you're watching from. Let's see how far this story travels. It all started a few months after we moved in. My wife quickly became Karen's favorite target. She hated her independence. She hated her confidence. And most of all, she hated that my wife never bowed to her so-called HOA authority. She nitpicked everything. Our flower pots, the car. We parked outside, even the jogging route my wife took every morning. But what happened one Friday afternoon was on a whole different level. I was still at work when my wife called. Her voice was calm, but underneath I could hear that razor-sharp edge that only meant trouble. She said 3 men had shown up at our door, wearing cheap, mismatched uniforms. They flashed fake-looking badges and introduced themselves as HOA enforcement officers. Instantly, she knew. This had Karen's fingerprints all over it. These wannabe officers started grilling her about random nonsense, recycling bins, curtain colors, even our fence height. None of it was their business, and none of it made sense. But my wife didn't flinch. She told them flat out, "You have no jurisdiction, no authority, and no legal grounds to even stand on this porch." One of them, a tall guy in knockoff sunglasses, smirked and said, "We're here under orders from the president. You don't want to make this harder than it needs to be." The president, of course, was Karen. And across the street, Karen was actually sitting in a lawn chair, arms folded, grinning like a queen watching her pawns. But here's what she didn't know. My wife isn't just tough. She's highly trained. Before we ever moved into this quiet neighborhood, my wife worked for the CIA. So while those 3 clowns thought they were intimidating her, she was already planning exactly how this would end. When one of the fake, cops tried jabbing a finger in her chest, my wife gave him a small smile and said, "Obstruction of what? Last I checked, only real law enforcement can write citations. You 3 are just playing dress-up." That line hit like a bomb. I can only imagine Karen's smug face twitching from across the street. The tall one stepped closer, puffing out his chest. "You think this is a joke? We can take you down to the station right now." My wife didn't even blink. "The station? Let me guess. Karen's garage?" That's when they made their final mistake. One of them reached for her wrist. In one swift move, she twisted his arm, dropped her weight, and flipped him flat onto the grass. Thud. He landed hard enough for Karen to hear from her lawn chair. The other 2 froze, wide-eyed. But when Sunglasses lunged, my wife sidestepped, hooked his arm, and slammed him face first into the porch. Railing. His fake badge clattered to the steps. The 3rd guy just stood there, torn between fight or flight. My wife locked eyes with him. "You've got 3 seconds to leave before I show you why intimidation doesn't work on me." He hesitated. 1 second too long. She grabbed his vest and shoved him straight into the flower bed. By now, neighbors were peeking out, filming the whole thing. 3 so-called enforcers scattered across the yard, while my wife stood there like she'd barely warmed up. Karen's grin? Gone. For the first time, she realized she was in way over her head. And then, flashing red and blue lights filled the street. Real sheriff's deputies pulled up. Neighbors poured out with their phones, recording every second. The fake cops scrambled, trying to act legit, brushing off their thrift store uniforms. But it was too late. One deputy narrowed his eyes. "What in the hell am I looking at?" Calm as ever, my wife folded her arms and said, "3 impersonators, hired by that woman." She nodded toward Karen. Karen shot up from her lawn chair, yelling, "Don't listen to her! They're here on HOA business! She assaulted them! Arrest her!" The deputies exchanged looks. One shook his head. "Lady, impersonating an officer is a felony. These guys aren't from any department I've ever seen." One of the fake cops stammered, We were just enforcing the HOA code. The deputy cut him off cold. Son, the only code you broke is Title 18, Section 9 to 12, impersonating a federal officer. That's 5 years prison time. Karen's jaw dropped. No, you don't understand. I authorized this. I'm the HOA president. We're allowed. But that's when my wife decided to drop the hammer. She pulled out a slim black wallet and flipped it open. Inside gleamed an ID that made both deputies instantly stand straighter. Special agent? One muttered. His whole tone changed. Karen's face went ghost white. Agent? Agent of what? My wife locked eyes with her and said cold as steel. CIA, Counterintelligence Division, and congratulations, Karen. You just orchestrated a federal crime. The crowd gasped. Neighbors' phones angled higher, recording Karen's downfall in real time. The deputies cuffed the 3 fake cops, collecting their laughable IDs as evidence. Then one turned to me. Do you want to press charges against Dee? Her too? Solicitation, harassment, conspiracy? It all sticks. I didn't even hesitate. Every charge available. Karen shrieked like a banshee trying to run. But 2 neighbors blocked her until the deputies cuffed her too, as they shoved her into the back of the cruiser. She screamed, "This neighborhood belongs to me! You can't do this!" But no one listened. The neighbors cheered. Phones recorded. And just like that, Karen's reign of terror was over, destroyed by her own arrogance and a woman she thought was weak, who turned out to be the one person she should have feared most. So tell me, what do you think Karen's punishment should be for unleashing fake cops on her neighbors?